welcome back to another one of my 1000 greatest vinyl videos. You know the rules, it has to be in this wall behind me, and there really are my opinion of the 1000 greatest records. Because obviously there's some really good records that I don't have on vinyl, so they don't really count even though they're awesome. So there we go. Anyway, I thought we'd do Pink Floyd today, and just a quick reminder, my favourite Pink Floyd album of all time was reviewed in the first video from this series. So Wish You Were Here has already been done, so that's the rules. It can't appear twice in this series. But that plays to our advantage because Pink Floyd have done one heck of a lot of really good albums. So to whittle down your 6 favourites, it's actually really hard. So Wish You Were Here is out of the question. Already been done, so we've got 6 others to do. It makes things a little bit easier. So without further ado, let's pick up one which an awful lot of people will recognise. This is The Wall, and it's like bricks. It's an entire gatefold sleeve just as bricks. But on the inside we get a bit more going on there. And this is pretty much Roger Waters' nervous breakdown. Shortly after this, he fired everybody in the band, which started to raise the questions of who is Pink Floyd, and as it turned out, Pink Floyd wasn't Roger Waters. Pink Floyd was Pink Floyd, and it's kind of bigger than any of them. And when Roger Waters fired the other 3 members, they went, well, hold on, there's more of us than you. We're Pink Floyd. And carried on going for several further albums. But The Wall, despite the fact that Roger Waters is clearly going through quite a hard mental kind of experience, is an exceptional album. It's very refined. It's 1979, and well, it's probably the most commercially successful album, and it is certainly a very good album, helped of course by the film of the same name, which starred, oh, is it Bob Geldof? Bob Geldof? Yeah, Bob Geldof as Pink. And it kind of apes one of the classic lines from Wish You Were Here, which is my favourite Pink Floyd album. I love the band, by the way, which one's Pink? Which was kind of indicative of the record industry at the time. It's like, oh yeah, we love you because you're making us loads of money. But we haven't even bothered to find out who the hell you are or what you do, because we think there's somebody in the band who's actually called Pink Floyd. But great album that. Very highly produced, and it built on a lot of the work that they'd done previously. They're kind of, really, Pink Floyd you could view as being a kind of a build-up to this album in everything that they did, certainly throughout the 1970s. After The Wall, there was the album that's really best left forgotten, which was the Final Cut, and then we have the big meltdown, and well, everybody but Roger Waters comes back and points out that, well, there's more of them than him. And they came back with this album, which is Momentary Lapse of Reason, which I actually really adore this album. It's a lot more different to sound. It's a lot more synthesizers and slower pace to the music. You can tell that the major songwriting influence has upsticks and left. But the other 3 members of Pink Floyd did contribute songs throughout their history, and really Dave Gilmour took up the writing mantle where Roger Waters left off, and this is a perfect product that's produced. We've got some great tracks on here, and one of my favourite Pink Floyd tracks of all time is Sorrow, and the guitar solo in this really just has to be heard to be believed. It's covers done by Storm Thorgerson, same as all the other Pink Floyd albums, but it's, well, quite a different theme to some of the previous Pink Floyd albums, and in some respects you could argue that this mirrors the breakdown that Roger Waters went through when we look at the picture of the lone man with all these sort of hospital-type beds on a beach stretching into the distance. But we've got references to a lot of the song. We've got Dogs of War, Learning to Fly, Sorrow, I presume, is the guy there. Now, this is probably the most iconic of Pink Floyd album covers. This is, well, straight out of somebody's physics textbook. And so the story goes, Storm Thorgerson had a whole load of designs ready for the sleeve for this, and he also had this really just to bulk out the bits that he was going to show the boys from the band. And they all picked this one, which he'd pinched from a physics textbook. But it is iconic, and it's incredibly simple. And really, that's what you want. You don't want a busy album sleeve. You want something that stands out from the crowd, and this album really does. As we can see, this is the EMI 100 collection, the centenary, and I think that was 1997 this was released. So this is a special edition released in 97. There's actually no difference, apart from somebody slapped a sticker on the front. There's no extra tracks. It has been remastered, but very sympathetically. We've got the gatefold sleeve here with the pulsing rainbow effect through the middle and the lyrics through there. It is an awesome album. Again, another complete audible soundscape that just really, you put it on and before you know it you're at the end of the album, having enjoyed every single second of it. For the next Pink Floyd album we're going right back on the rewind and seeing where it all began. That's right, it only has to be Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And wow, this is really a completely different look and feel to the later Pink Floyd stuff. And personally, I think they're very much a product of their time. It's almost like the psychedelic bandwagon was there, and under the helm of Syd Barrett, they kind of were jumping on that. And I think it was very much a passing fad. And I know it's probably sacrilege to say, but Syd Barrett getting dropped from the band was probably something that meant that Pink Floyd lasted as long as they did. Because if they'd have carried on with this psychedelic, oh look, I've just dropped an LSD tab and I'm now writing about the monsters crawling up the wall type style, I really think that this would have got pretty old pretty quickly as the early 70s rolled through. But on this we've got some really good tracks. We've got Astronomy Domine, we've got Lucifer Sam, we've got Pow Our Torch, Interstellar Overdrive as well. And what's interesting as well is that Pink Floyd's early singles, which they did release, which, you know, later years they weren't big on singles, but back in this period they did release a lot of singles. Things like See Emily Play, Apples and Oranges, and Arnold Lane. But it's the B-sides from those which have reached the albums, not the A-sides. And actually there was an EP released a lot later on, which actually had the A-sides from the singles, because if you hadn't bought the original 7-inch, you just didn't have some of these quite well-known tracks from the beginning of Pink Floyd. Certainly Arnold Lane still gets played a lot on the radio. Now, probably something that if you ask people to say what they thought of when you said Pink Floyd, they'd probably say something that's on the cover of this album. Yes, it's the little inflatable pig. Well, actually, it wasn't all that little. It was quite big if you were close up to it. But it's the one that got away. So the story goes. The tether that was keeping hold of it broke and it floated away. And they'd forgotten to hire the marksman who was on hand the first day of shooting the photographs to shoot it down if things got out of hand. They forgot to hire him for the second day. So this thing just drifted off. But it did then create a very, very eye-catching and distinctive front cover image. We've got Battersea Power Station in its heyday, back when it was generating power. It's probably all trendy yuppie flats now, but there's a huge railway yard in front of it. And inside we've got all these pictures that show a level of dereliction that was really quite indicative of 1977, which is when the album was released. It is a great album, but it's only got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks, but it's a full-length album. This must have been a bit of a headache for the people who mastered the disc, because it's like, well, you can have an awful lot on one side and probably half that amount on the other. But, you know, they managed to fit it on there and it does work. This was the second album from Pink Floyd that I ever got, and I listened to it to death, and it's still a perfectly good, listenable album. But in many ways it does feel like a bit of a dip between Wish You Were Here and The Wall. Final album. This is one that, well, it's been seen in the background on a few of my videos, and indeed, when I first introduced my record collection, I did introduce this record. Yes, that's right. It's my Pulse box set on my 4 vinyl set. I'm told it's actually worth quite a lot of money now. I only paid, I think it was about £35 for it, brand new. But we've got it on 4 vinyl discs. And what's interesting about this, and I only discovered this when I got a CD copy to listen to at work, is that the vinyl copy has 1 extra track, which isn't on the CD version. A track is One of These Days, and this is a track from originally on the album Medal, and it's the only track from Medal to actually appear on this album. But if you don't have the vinyl copy, then, well, you don't have that track. The album also came with a nice booklet for the photographs, so whereas people who wasted money on a CD version got tiny little pictures, if you sprung for the vinyl, you got the full-sized ones in a lovely hardback book. Isn't that nice? Although, one thing you did get with the CD version is your little flashing sleeve light. Well, certainly on the first edition of it. And I know somebody who used it as a pretend car alarm. He figured if you slid that underneath the radio into the little ashtray down there and left the little flashy light, which you couldn't turn off, to flash, people walking past his car would think, oh, that car has got a car alarm, I will not break into it, rather than looking at it and going, oh, it's one of them pulse things. Anyway, quick rundown there of the 6 Pink Floyd albums that I've chosen. Of course, we didn't have to include Wish You Were Here because we've already done that, so actually we've cheated a bit and we've had my 7 favourite Pink Floyd albums, but shh. Anyway, don't forget to like this video and share it too, and subscribe to the channel. You'll be the first to know about new videos as they come up. Anyway, you keep on listening to that vinyl because it's getting popular now. Vinyl is back on in, and I reckon it's going to outlast CD. In fact, it'll probably outlast all the other physical formats. Mark my words. Anyway, take care. Bye for now.